Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2 is awesome. And I'm re-reviewing these movies. I reviewed them before. They weren't very good reviews, so take these as very fresh opinions, I guess. Um, yeah, I love Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2 way more than the first. And I think when I first watched it, I did not feel that way, but I think the reason you may not feel that way the first time you watch it is because this movie does have a lot of subtleties in it with the character work, with the writing, but also has a lot of clunky storytelling that really bothers me. But we'll get into that. I guess we'll start with what works here is all the character work, especially the work on Rocket and Yondu. Spoilers for this movie that's like what 7 years old now? No, 6 years old. Uh, Yondu dies, and that's a beautiful moment. The Ravager funeral, all that works immensely well, and it's just so well put together and just very sad. And his bond with Rocket in the movie, and then seeing Gamora and Nebula come together as sisters, Star Lord discover his heritage and learning to move past that. Drax kind of meeting Mantis and starting that bond, and Baby Groot being Baby Groot. I will say, watching this movie years later, after the Baby Groot craze is over, it is a little bit cringy because, like that opening scene, while it's fun and he's dancing to the music, it does really feel like an advertisement for the toy. Like, hey, we got Baby Groot toys and he's dancing around. Look, look, look. It was a funny opening that worked, but it still felt like a advertisement a little bit. But the soundtrack to this movie I think works a lot better in this one, especially since there are several scenes where the lyrics actually match up to what's happening in the movie, like the song "Chain." Damn your love, damn your lies. That's how Star Lord is feeling about his father in that scene. Mostly like in the first one, like the music worked, but a lot of it was just kind of thrown in there. And this one, it felt more natural. I also like this movie a lot more because the color palette is really opened up, and you do have some really good moments of cinematography and things like that too. James Gunn's direction here is really solid. In the first movie, while it definitely felt like a James Gunn movie writing wise, it didn't really feel that way direction wise. This one really did. It opened up the colors, it had cinematography, it had more energy to it. The comedy here is a lot better. Though I will say, while it is a lot better, there's a lot more of it, so that means that there's a lot more misses than hits than in the first, because there's just more of it in general. So there's a lot that really works, that hits, but there's also a lot that doesn't, and that leads me into my negative. A lot of the humor here is a little crass, and that's fine. A lot of that humor works, but there are just several points I'm like, you're watching Yondu's crew get murdered and murked, and it's a horrific scene, and then they're sitting there making jokes about this guy's face name being Taser Face, which it was a funny joke at first, but then they went on a little bit too long with it, things like that. And there was a lot of sequences in this movie that are just really good, but they're always really good emotionally, and then they're kind of ruined by jokes thrown in there. You know, they just every scene felt like it couldn't handle giving you that emotional moment without throwing a joke in there. Other than Yondu's death, and I think that got a little bit annoying at times. Also, some of the humor felt mean spirited when Mantis is like, "Hey, I'm learning I'm ugly." That's a little bit mean spirited, and it's not really that funny. So yeah, humor works here most of the time, but there's quite a few moments where it doesn't, because again, a lot of jokes here, a lot of them work, a lot of them don't. And then you get to the villains of the movie, which are these gold people, and they're not interesting characters. They're really boring, and they're just douchey. Like, you just don't really care. And then they kept bringing them back throughout the movie, and it just got annoying and obsessive. And we're finally gonna get some resolving to that Adam Warlock cliffhanger at the end of this movie, but it just feels like, all right, I don't really care about these people. They're mad because Rocket stole batteries. Like, okay, what are we doing here? And I like what that leads in with the Rocket's character, but I don't really like what that, like them just being these annoying douches that just followed our characters out the whole movie. I will say, Ego is a very underrated Marvel villain. The twist of him being the bad guy is really obvious to the audience, and I think that could have been written a little bit a little bit better. I mean, but Kurt Russell gives such a charismatic performance that I don't really care, and then also the fact that I understand why our characters like Star-Lord would want to buy into this. I mean, he's trying to figure out his own feelings with the whole scenario too. He's clearly questioning things, whether things are what all too good to be true or not. So I kind of get that. I think where it becomes too obvious is like Gamora starts questioning it and Mantis starts acting all weird. You're like, okay, clearly there's something going on here, and they could have written that a little bit better. But otherwise, I thought he was a very solid villain in the movie. I find it funny that we have the next movie is gonna have Chris Pratt's. Has already said that the next movie is gonna have the first F-bomb in a Marvel movie. But what I find really funny about that is like, really, it's not gonna be when his dad literally says that he killed his mother. Like that seems like a good moment to say fuck you, because he killed his mom, like purposely. I don't know. Just saying. I think this is a really solid movie, and I think it's just so good. I actually prefer this one so much more than any other Marvel movie, and just any just the Guardians of it's the best of the Guardians of the Galaxy movies flat out. I mean, obviously I haven't seen 3 yet. Okay, go watch it Thursday. Cannot wait. Yes, please. Guardians of the Galaxy, bitch. But yeah, I freaking love Guardians. Let me know your thoughts, like, share, and subscribe. Thank you guys for watching.